So finally, we
Great.
have a guest on this week after 3 weeks of struggle. But really happy to have Gregory on today. And could you just tell us a little about yourself and what you do to begin with?
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. So currently I'm working at a company called Praxis. If you looked it up, it'd be discoverpraxis.com. And I am my title is demand generation specialist.
Mm-hmm.
What that looks like on a day-to-day basis is working with people on the front line that are discovering our program, answering their questions, and trying to see if they make sense for our program or not. For people that don't know, Praxis is a college alternative. It is a two-part program. The first 6 months is a boot camp, and then the second 6 months is a job support. We're helping the whole idea is to give you business experience through a project-based curriculum, working with experts, coaches, and advisors, and then we guarantee you a full-time job at a growing, innovative startup company, and then we give you 6 months of dedicated job support. So that's really the product of helping people just start their career strong in business, and they don't know what they want to do, or they want to start their own business one day. They're somewhat entrepreneurial, and really just want to get their feet wet in the startup world. So that's the product, and my main goal is to help people learn about that product and get as many people to hear about it, get their eyes on it as possible. So I work really closely with the COO, Mitchell Earl. Great guy. He's more on the marketing side of things. I'm more on the sales side of things. But just recently, my role is going to be changing just a bit. I'm going to be going like 40% sales marketing and then 60% curriculum development to actually start working on the product and personally getting my feet wet in different areas of the business to better prepare myself to start my own company one day, which is my ultimate goal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like an interesting job. Yeah.
It's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
Every day it's just talking to hundreds of people, and getting to hear their stories, where they're trying to go in their life, and hearing where their obstacles and the roadblocks that they're facing, and helping them see kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. Just
Mm-hmm.
answering their questions and understanding how to really navigate the career landscape. So, yeah, it's definitely fun to hear everybody's stories.
Nice. I don't know if you remember how we got in touch, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
you came to the Praxis website, and were wanting to learn more, and then considering your goals and your interest, not necessarily it was if it was going to align with you, but
Mm-hmm.
taking on different side projects and growing things that way, and recommending because I have 3 years of podcast experience, one for my personal needs and one for starting a podcast for, a Series B startup company. Uh, I feel like I could share a few different things, and that's kind of the joy of my job is that not everybody makes sense for our program. But if I can touch people's lives and help them get closer to their goals in one way or the other, whether that's going through a program or not, that's kind of why I enjoy what I do. So
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Um, I don't know if like what I'm wondering what your background is with school and school specifically. Like, are you a dropout or how did you find Praxis, you know?
yeah, so that's actually a really interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through K through 12 education system. I wasn't homeschooled or anything. Um, Fairly good at school, but never really cared for it. It was very boring. It wasn't stimulating enough. And I thought there was just much more to life than going to school, memorizing things, taking tests. Um, and so my senior year, and it's called different things across the country and around the world, but where I was living in Florida, it was called dual enrollment. And you could take on a college year in your junior and senior year of high school. And I decided to do that to get ahead and get some credits, just to understand what the dynamic of college was and how I would enjoy it. Because I was already questioning it a little bit. And I went there and I went to the University of West Florida and I took just very basic classes, but I realized that very, very, very quickly that it wasn't for me. The main reason is kind of philosophical, but when you're going to classes and people are sitting there watching the professor and they're sitting on their phones, not really paying attention when they're paying to go to this class and learn this material. Like they're paying thousands of dollars. Why are you sitting on your phone on Snapchat? That just really irked me. And I'm like, I'm paying attention. I'm going to take the test. They're also going to take this test. and they're probably going to scrape by. They're probably still going to pass the class, and we're both going to get the same degree at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And I'm basically saying I'm equivalent to these people. And not to look down on them, or to shame them, but I'm putting in so much more effort, and at the same day, we're getting the same result. And I'm like, what does a piece of paper really say about you, anyways? Because it doesn't really show much, in my opinion, because behind the scenes of a piece of paper, there's so much that you can't see about their work ethic and how they're doing it because they're probably scraping by and probably more focused on parties and alcohol and things like that. So I went through that and I realized that I didn't want to go to college. So I started looking into college alternatives and to
Mhm.
really think about it. But I didn't jump the gun and think of like, oh, maybe I should do like a coding boot camp or something along those lines. I really was kind of lost. I didn't know how to start and begin searching different paths to like move forward. Because I didn't know what I even wanted to do. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
knew there was some entrepreneurial drive in me, and maybe I wanted to start my own business one day, but I didn't know if that wanted to be like a simple, maybe it's a lawn business or a painting business. Like I've done a lot of those things in my life, working for tradesmen. And I was like, maybe
Mm.
that's something I could do and start my own thing eventually. Or it could be really big, like getting a venture capital backed startup company and like really moving the needle in terms of innovation. And so I really, like, there was this one night, I was just scrolling through Google Podcasts, trying to find some good things to listen to. I was bored out of my mind, and stumbled across this podcast called "Successful Dropout" by Kylan Ginger.
Oh, interesting.
And if you haven't heard it, you
No.
need to listen to it. It is an
Okay.
amazing podcast, and there's hundreds of episodes. And Kylan interviews people that have dropped out and have become successful without college or the degree and started amazing businesses, whether that's a digital marketing agency,
Mm.
or something else entirely. And so that really inspired me and kind of let me see the light of what's possible without a degree. And I dug into that a little bit more. And one of the episodes, he interviewed Isaac Morehouse, who is the founder of Praxis. Okay. So I listened to that podcast probably 4 or 5 times over and, like, really digging into it, and then it was probably honestly, I kinda forgot about it, and about 4 weeks later, I was like, "You know what? I think I got an ad for a Praxis on Instagram or something along those lines." So I digged into it a little bit more, started researching their website, and the more I read, like, initially, it was too good to be true. Like, wait, they're promising some very big, bold things. You can go through this program. It's only a year long. And within the first 6 months, you're landing a full time job, a career level job with a salary, maybe benefits, depending on the company,
Mhm.
with no college degree in just 6 months. And yes, it's an intensive and hard program. Um, but it just still seemed too good to be true. The average starting salary for participants is $50,000 and typically moves up pretty quickly from there. And it had like a 96% graduation rate and positive rate. So it seemed too good to be true, but then the more I dig into it, heard Isaac speak on other podcasts and heard the co-founder TK Coleman speak on other podcasts, like I just became infatuated with the idea of Praxis. It literally lit a fire under me, and I was like, "This is gold. This is." It was speaking to me in every which way, and I was like, "I have to be a part of this." And it's probably like 5 weeks later, I applied to the program, and the admissions decision took 2 to 3 weeks. And
Mm.
I was so nervous going through that because I was like, "Okay, I've already told my parents I'm not going to college, and I applied to this thing, and I'm really hoping this works out because if it doesn't, I don't know what I'm gonna do."
Mhm.
So, I got really nervous. I put my all into it, and luckily, I got accepted into the program. Now, I didn't start until 5 months later in the summer because I was still going through high school, and I worked 40 hours a week at Chick-fil-A. Um, so I didn't really have the time or the bandwidth to do that yet, so I kinda put it off until I graduated high school. Then I started in July, and then by November, I was landing a job and a company called Scripted, which is an online marketplace for people that are mainly companies that are not wanting to hire in-house copywriters to create their content through SEO and
I
organic
see.
search and things like that.
Mhm.
And so you hire the scripted writers, and it's a platform of like hundreds and hundreds of writers all across the world, but all English speaking writers. And you can hire these out and do one off projects, kind of like Fiverr or Upwork or some of those sites, but strictly just written content. And so I did that, landed a job there as a sales development rep. Now, the journey to get there was going through the Praxis boot camp, learning a lot about business and about myself and what I wanted to accomplish. And the more I went through the program, I realized that, yeah, I really do want to start a business one day. And I think the key fundamental factor that I need to learn is sales, because at the heart of every business is sales. And if I want to be an entrepreneur, I need to get good at that. So I started searching for sales opportunities. Now, how that works through the Praxis program, at least, is they have a BP network of about 130 different startup companies that are actively hiring Praxis graduates. That's the first pool of talent they're going to turn to see if they want to get a quality applicant before they go to any other sites like Indeed or something like that. So one of the colleague now, but one of the coaches and advisors at Praxis, her name's Juliana Carbonari, and she reached out to me when I was in the placement process after I went through the curriculum part of the program. I was actively looking for job opportunities, and she was like, "Hey, this company called Scripted wants to have an interview with you. They saw your profile or your Praxis profile, and the Praxis profile is basically me, all the projects that I've created throughout the program. So throughout it, it's a very project-based curriculum, and everything you do can get added to your professional portfolio. For instance, one of the things that I did was create, I learned HubSpot, which is a very popular CRM in the startup space,
Mm,
kind of like Salesforce. And if you know HubSpot, that's really great, especially if you're going into a marketing or sales or customer success position at a company. So I wanted to learn that
mhm.
software. I
Yeah,
did, and then I created an online course and posted it to Udemy, and I've made thousands of dollars off of that course. I've have
I
thousands
see.
of students that taken it to learn HubSpot.
Mhm,
And so when I share that example, it's because it's not just a project to be a project. It's a valuable marketplace driven project that people can actually use, and it can be on your professional portfolio. I think that speaks pretty loudly to go up and be in your sales interview and say, I built this course and I sold it myself to thousands of people and made passive income on it every month. So that's
mhm.
pretty powerful, and it's bigger than just reading a textbook on sales. So I
Exactly.
went through that, and so when they saw those projects in the profile I created, um, they reached out to Juliana and said, "Hey, we want to interview this guy." So I got an interview, didn't have to apply at all, and
Mhm. That's the
um,
best.
went going through that interview process probably took 2 to 3. Yeah, and that interview process took about 2 to 3 weeks. So it was interesting, and I think it was really important how I handled that process because okay, I'm 18 years old at this
I
point.
see. Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so I was
Okay.
18 years old, had no experience whatsoever, and it really helped me in the fact that I knew how to be professional in email etiquette, especially through a high level interview process with like my boss at Scripted was, and I had an interview with him before I got the job offer, was the CEO of a company called Spin Media, and it was acquired by Beats by Dre.
All
And
right,
so,
interesting.
Dr. Dre was his boss for a while, and he lives in Silicon Valley. Like, he's looking for good talent, and so it was very intimidating, but through Praxis, I learned a lot about email etiquette and how to really stand and go above and beyond in the interview process, and
Mhm.
so beyond my portfolio, my profile that they looked over to decide they wanted to interview me, once I landed the interview, between the first interview with a person named Alexandra Sakani, um, after she said, "We're gonna move you on to the next one," I went on their website and I was like, "What can I find on their website that I can help fix and improve before I get hired?" And think of it this way, it's in the terms of a value proposition. And this is really powerful for anyone that's kind of way over their head in an interview process. If they want to stick out from other candidates in the interview process, create a value proposition. So what I did is like, I'm going into a sales position, what can I do to help grow their sales from the outside perspective? So I went to their website and I realized that they weren't really able to communicate with their customers on their website really easily. So they had a page where they had their number and you could call them and their email. But I was like, what we could do is add a bot, like a chat bot or a live chat box at the bottom corner of the website. So people can just type in if they want to. And it's not such of a chore. You can just type in, it's really easy. And they didn't have that. So I downloaded or went to Intercom, which is a very popular chatbot, other when it's called Drift. And they're basically the industry leaders in that space. And I mastered Intercom from the back end through a free trial. And then I decorated it with their logo, their colors, and everything, and then built out a logic branch. So something like if they weren't online, they could capture leads information like their email and their number, um, and they could also get some of their questions answered through a chat bot. Like this question, they have a few answers, and if they answer
Hmm.
that, then it's going to go a different route. But if they answer another answer, it's going to go a different route. It was a pretty elaborate chatbot branch, but it was all centered around their content and what they would be selling, who they'd be selling to. Like you have to put yourself in the position of who's coming to their website, probably, and high level marketers that are looking to outsource some of this talent because they're growing too rapidly to hire full-time copywriters, or maybe they have to cut cost and they just need to do one-off projects, but they need some of the stuff off of their plate. And so I'm catering the questions and messages to these types of people. And so I built out this chatbot on Intercom, and then I created a video of me walking through it, with their like logos and everything, so they could really understand how powerful it could be. Um, and then I sent that to the person I was going to be interviewing with next. And
Okay.
through that process, I was hired because they were like, "We need this guy on our team. If he already solved the problem, and like he saw a problem, he already came up with a solution. He's not even getting paid yet.
Yeah.
Like, what is he gonna do when he gets paid?" So, that was a really, I think that was the fundamental factor of how I
Hmm.
got that position. So, yeah, that's kind of my story from the past 2 years, going from college, hating it, going through Praxis, getting this opportunity, creating a value proposition, and then it ends with me really just hitting the ground running, really crushing it in the role once I get there, giving 110%. Um, I think that's important because
Hmm.
just when you can get the position, but you can lose it very quickly.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Keeping the position is totally different story than
exactly.
getting it.
Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot there. It sounds like you've had a really busy few years then, ever since,
yeah, and
yeah, starting
but an
practice.
exciting,
Exciting.
yeah, but an exciting few years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
like when I tell people, I mean, I'm 19 now, and I feel like, I mean, I've been in a lucky position to like Praxis cost $12,000 to do it. They do have tuition deferment now.
Oh, okay.
And so you can go through the program and then only pay for it once you land the job through the program on a monthly basis. You pay
Mm-hmm.
more in the end because of interest. But I was in a lucky position where I had already had some money saved up. I sold my motorcycle for 5 grand. And then I got, a substantial down payment of 8K. And then I just paid the rest
Mm-hmm.
over a month because I was still working at Chick-fil-A, had some income. And so I was fortunate in that position to be able to do it. But if you're considering Praxis or college, it's far cheaper in most cases, in most stances. Like
Yeah,
the cheaper
definitely.
route in the end is going to be Praxis. And when you can factor in how much you're going to be making because they guarantee you a job, by the time you technically graduate, you're going to have a profit. You're going to have a net cost of adding 4K to your bank account. So
Right.
yeah,
As long as you don't leave the program early or something,
yeah,
you're pretty
and
much
that
all
does
set.
happen on occasion. Like there's a 93% completion rate.
Mm-hmm. It's really
Whether
high.
that's it was too intense, for them, it is a pretty intense program. Like, it's not like college, it's way more intense. It's not for the faint of heart, but it just shows you what you can do if you, like, really put your
Mm-hmm.
mind to it and, work your ass off, so
Yeah. I mean, even if you compare it to community college, right? The cost difference is pretty
yeah,
crazy.
because at the end of the
But
day, you're still making more money than the actual
exactly.
program cost, so it
Yeah, yeah.
can't really compete with it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's a different thing, I would say. But
Yes. Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, I found Praxis through an unschooling writer, like Blake
Okay.
Bowles, I think. But
Yeah.
it's like self-directed education kind of spiel. Um,
Yes.
yes, yes. So at first I was like, yeah, I thought it was probably too good to be true, right? I mean, when you
Which
look
is
at
most
it
people's
on
reaction.
paper, yeah, like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
costs way less than college, and then you're guaranteed a job that pays way more than some college graduates can get. So it looks pretty unrealistic on paper, but once you kind of dig into
Yeah.
it, you see um, that they're actually teaching you real skills you can use through the program, and then it's it's like a boot camp for it's modern, you know? It's a boot camp for how to survive
Well,
in
it's
the
innovative, and
innovative. Okay.
like, here's the thing, I feel like college really hasn't changed in the past half century, and the things they're teaching are 2 to 3 years outdated. Like, by the time you start a degree in, like, let's say, computer science, by the time you graduate, the things you learned at the beginning of that journey are going to be outdated. There's gonna be better
Yeah.
techniques and better ways to go about it, and they're just not innovating and changing enough to keep up with the demands of the market and what hiring managers are actually looking for. And so that actually brings up a good point, and a lot of times people say it's too good to be true. And my kind of reaction to that, I mean, obviously I had the same one, but my reaction to that and kind of to get over that obstacle of helping people understand how good it is, but it's not too good to be true, is that think about how much money college is. And a lot of stances, like most people graduate with a debt of 30K. Private colleges, 50 to 80K, sometimes 200K, depending on where you're going. Um, but you do it in 4 years. There's nothing guaranteed on the other side of it. There's nothing, and most of the time, people are underemployed, so they have a college degree, but they end up going to a job that doesn't even require a college degree
Mhm.
or the one that they got a degree in, and it's just and then they're typically not making as much as they thought they would be doing. It takes forever to pay it back, and if I don't know if you've seen, like, how it all the math works out, but you can take a loan out for $47,000, pay off 30,000 no, pay off $20,000 of it in 10 years. And then you're still gonna owe 37 to $40,000 more
Mhm.
because the interest rate is so high. And so you're just paying an astronomical amount. And for what? For a piece of paper that's not gonna guarantee you a job. Like 40% of college graduates are underemployed. Um, and or end up going into something that they didn't even want, either they didn't even study in the first place. And I feel like it's interesting because I think college is a scam. Like, it's
Okay.
especially when you consider this, like, Harvard this year because of COVID, it kinda really shone through.
Yeah, it's
They didn't drop a single dime off their tuition. It's still $50,000, but it's all online. That just shows you how much they care more about putting money in their pockets as opposed to the actual education and what they're doing for their students. And that just kinda highlights I really feel like, I mean, look at it. There's 2 options ahead of you. One is 6 months long, one's 4 years long. 2 years of it is prerequisites, and they just force you to do that so they can take more money out of you because it's not really considered part of your studies, and that's just for a bachelor's. And if you want and you go to master's, and it's even more. Um, it's crazy high. The ROI, the return on investment is horrible when you think about it, especially if you get, like, a $50,000 degree. It's gonna take you a long time to make that up and pay that back, which to include interest, more like $100,000 for a loan, and the ROI is horrible. I'm like, "You're not getting what you're paying for." That is the obvious scam. Once you take a step back from the conveyor belt mindset of this is, I grew up my whole life, this is what people tell me to do, you start realizing and start seeing the flaws in the system and how they're really just trying to take your money. So
yeah. I mean, especially if you want to go into something that really doesn't require college. I think that's especially
right.
the
So
case.
so there is a caveat to everything I'm saying. If you wanna be in STEM, or be a
Yeah, of
teacher
course.
within the system, like, you gotta go to college. It's the law. Like, you can't go
Mhm.
around the law, and I don't want someone operating on me unless they go to medical school.
Exactly.
Totally different equation, but if you're not sure what you want to do with your life,
Mhm. Mhm.
do not go to college. That is the most
Yeah.
expensive way to
I
figure
totally.
out what you
Mhm.
want to do. You're
Mhm.
gonna learn a lot faster about what you like to do, what you're good at, what your weaknesses are by just working in the real world,
Mm.
um, and creating professional connections. And honestly, like, if you want the college experience, obviously outside of COVID times, you can literally go sit in a classroom. Like, if it's a big enough university and there's like 200, 300 people in a class, you can walk right into that class, sit in the back row, watch that lecture if you want to for free.
Yeah.
If you wanna go to a game and experience the party culture, live near the college university, and go to the library there, meet people, I it's you can do all of that for free if you really care about the college experience. You don't really need
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
for the
Yeah.
price tag, so
Something I thought about is, yeah, for those who want college experience, if you just rent out an apartment, right? I mean, you're gonna have to pay for the apartment anyway if you go to college, and
yeah, definitely.
you can just
Yeah,
have the
like
experience.
yeah, so if you wanna live close, like, and get a job and just work, and I think I learned so much more by actually just doing something. An analogy we like to use at Praxis is you can't learn to ride a bike by reading how to ride a bike. Like, you can study it for years, but you won't truly understand how to get on a bike and start riding it until you get on a bike and fall over. Like, you learn so much more and so much faster by just diving into the deep end, um, and immersing yourself in something as opposed to just studying it and then it just I think it wastes a lot of time. And so similarly, working on something like this, like let's just say, well, I can't get a job at a digital marketing agency, but I'm interested in marketing. So I want to go to college to learn and get involved in like marketing and understanding how to write better. Because I have to go work at McDonald's right now because I don't have the ability to go to an agency. Like, why wouldn't I be going to college to learn that? And there's a better way to do it. You can YouTube, Google it. Like, the world of knowledge is in your pocket at all times, and not enough people leverage that. You can learn whatever you want for free or for a few bucks on courses like Udemy or Skillshare. Learn that yourself, and then take on what we call personal development projects or PDPs, and that's basically what Praxis is composed of. So if you let's say you want to go into digital marketing, um, figure out create a project for yourself. Whether that is finding a company or a startup brand that you want to learn their product, understand their market share, and go out and create collateral for them. Create advertisements, create blog posts, create videos or commercials, like whatever you want to do, and take it on as a project to just have fun. And you're gonna learn a lot along the way. A key term that I like to use is just in time learning versus just learning to learn. And you should learn to the task, not just to have that knowledge and hopefully use one day, because you're taking up time to study something that you might never use if you do that. And if you don't use it fast enough, you're going to lose it. And so you're just going to have to research it again anyway. So when you take on a project that you're way over your head, you don't understand the digital marketing space, take it slowly and just take and break it down into bite-sized pieces. And then whenever you hit a stumbling block, research it, figure out that problem, and through that process of not knowing how to do something to achieve an overall bigger goal in that when you're breaking it down, when you have that sight, the goal at the end of the tunnel, like it's going to help you motivate you to get over that and learn it much faster, and it's going to stick. It's going to stick with you because you're going through it through an actual process to create something tangible, not just to memorize it in a book.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, there's difference from, I think, how you actually gain knowledge and how just remembering knowledge. There's a big
Right.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, there is, and I think at the root of all knowledge is self-knowledge. Regardless if you go to college, watch a YouTube video, you're only going to learn what you're interested in. At the end of the day, it's gonna be you taking that information in. Yes, people can explain it better and break it down and make it easier to digest,
Hmm.
but there are plenty of resources online to break things down and digest those type of things. You don't need a professor, not even knowing who you are, like in a crowd of 300 students. It's really not the same. And there's office hours and things like that. But I think there's better alternatives to breaking that down and really taking on a project that is going to make it more of like a muscle memory as opposed to just like short-term storage. Yeah, I think that's a valid point.
I'm wondering about your own experience with you said you weren't sure what you were going to do after you tried that dual enrollment.
Yeah. So
So I'm wondering how you were able to, I don't know, find that for yourself.
so my secret is that I don't know. I
Hmm.
still don't know. Um, but that's okay because a career isn't linear.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is there's not a track that you have to decide on when you're 18 years old and that you're going to stick on for the rest of your life and you're going to climb the corporate ladder and then retire when you're 60 or 70. And no, that's not the life I want to live. A career is very, very messy. You're going to go from job to job. Today's world, most people aren't working at the same company for their whole life. They're going to be on average working at 10 different companies. And I think that number is only going to increase, especially with the gig economy. Um, but it's very messy, as in I just took my first step. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wasn't going to figure it out by not taking action. And the easiest way to start getting closer to that goal is to just take that first step. And I think there's a line that will always stick with me, and I'll tell everybody when it comes to this topic is If you don't know what you want to do with your life, don't do stuff you hate. Just live by that metric. And what I mean by that is you take on a job and there's some aspects of it that you're really good at that you really like. And there's other aspects of that job that you don't like and you honestly hate. Your next job, make sure that there's nothing that you hated from the first job that is included in that next job. Only things that you like and maybe things that you don't know about yet. And then from that experience, okay, what do you like? What do you hate? And then over time, with each new company and each new position, you'll slowly shave away everything that you hate, that you didn't like the experience of. Because and you, closer and closer with every job, you're gonna get closer to that ideal opportunity that makes you come alive. Because it's a lot easier for most people to say, "I hate this," versus, "This is what I wanna do. This is what I like."
Hmm.
Your career is a journey. You don't need all the answers right now, and you're not going to, and even if you think you do, 5 years down the road, you're going through all of these experiences, they're gonna change your perception and change what you want and desire and what you think you're good at, and you're gonna grow new skills, and you're gonna change no matter what. So don't set yourself on this course, and if you fall off of it, you're a failure. You're not. You're human, and maybe that's the best thing that ever happens to you because a year later you find this new skill or you find this new company or meet this new person that's gonna open up a whole new world to you. Embrace that. Embrace the journey.
Well said there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people still. I mean, back when I was in high school, there was so much anxiety about what people were gonna do for their life in the future. And then, especially, I know some friends in college, and they're just freaking out completely about their career and exactly what they need to major in and exactly what job they need to get. But I definitely think it's becoming less and less relevant because, like what you said about gig economy, how people are jumping from job to job to job, and it's much more valuable to be not necessarily a specialist, but somebody who can do different things and who has the ability to, link different things.
Yeah, I think we don't live in a world of knowledge anymore. Like, it's not about what you know, because everybody has access to knowledge
Oh,
in a few seconds through typing on a Google search. We're not in the world of knowledge.
oh,
We're
you
in
froze for a second
the
there.
world of connections. And
Oh, could you just
sorry,
repeat what you
can you
said?
hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't live in a world of knowledge anymore. We have access to that at our fingertips, a Google search away. You We're in the world of connections and value creation. And being able to connect things together and create things and do things with knowledge that no one else is going to do, or isn't willing to do. I feel like a lot of people have ideas, but no one actually takes action on them. And it's important to be that person that does take action. So when it comes to like anxiety and in college and trying to figure that thing out, like, yeah, don't worry too much about it. Just focus on creating value and doing things that you don't hate, that make you somewhat happy, that you're somewhat interested in, and allow those curiosities to take you where they do. And don't fight it. There's opportunities in every single industry and everything you can do, and you can always scale it and make a ton of money by starting your own business in that industry. Like photographer, that's a pretty basic example, but like you could either start and do like weddings or photography like that, or you could say, I want to make more money than this. I want to start something way bigger than this, but I'm going to leverage my photography skills to create a digital product for other photographers, like a video editor or photo editor or something along those lines. Because you're still passionate about it, but you're going to connect and bridge other things, make connections, from photography to digital. And then maybe you hire like a digital co-founder to help you build, a VC-backed startup company. And then you see what I'm saying? Like there's 100 different ways you can go, but it's important to connect your interest and also create value where the market needs it. So
Yeah. What do you think is the importance in doing what you're actually interested in? Like, why is that so important?
because you're going to get burned out if you're not. So, for instance, when I worked at Scripted, I worked there for 6 months, half a year. By month 4, I hated my job. Like, I enjoyed the people and the connections, but I didn't give a crap about their product. I really didn't. And my job was to talk about it every single day, all day long. And because I wasn't very excited about the product, I got burned out very quickly. And then I just kind of kept trucking through it because it's like I kind of promised myself I was going to work at this company for so long. But then the CEO of Praxis, Cameron Sorsby, reached out to me because he saw how good I was doing there, despite me not liking it, and said, "Hey, we have a position on the team opening up. Um, I would like to chat with you about it. Can we meet sometime next week?" And so we did, and then I ended up having an official interview with Mitchell Earl, my direct boss, and then another one with Cameron. Then I ended up getting the job, and I took it, and I got the offer, and I took it because I went through Praxis. From the moment I heard about it, I was infatuated with it. It made me come alive. And it's like, I want to work for this company because it changed my life, and I want to help as many people change theirs as well in the same way. Because it's a powerful thing. And so I'm so much more interested in it. And I mean, I've already worked at Praxis longer than I worked at other place, and I'm only more interested in it and more excited about the company now than I was when I started. It's important to follow your interest because you're going to get burned out, and it's not going to be fun, and you're going to hate yourself. You're not going to want to do it. And that can be, and don't convolate that with the idea of taking your favorite hobby or your favorite passion and turning that into a business, because that's not always the best case, because it can spoil that hobby that you enjoy doing, because that's a break from work. That's a break from what you do during the day, and that's kind of your escape. And a lot of people regret turning those passions and hobbies into an actual career, because of this reason, and it kind of taints it a little bit, and it kind of ruins it for you. So don't necessarily pick the depending on what it is, and it depends on the person, and if you're okay with it, like test it out, do a mini project, and create like a small little Shopify store or something like that, selling what you're interested in or something. Get a taste for it, and if you like it, then go for it. But consider various interests. What would you could you see, like, have your hobbies that you wanna escape with, and take a breather from, the day-to-day life with, and then find a hobby or interest that you get not not really escaping from, but just wanting to build something within. And it's kind of a blurred line, and it's kinda hard to figure out, but that's why I say take on projects. If you're not sure which interest you wanna follow towards, like, a career path and which one you wanna use just as fun, create many projects, and that'll help you out along the way, just kinda tipping your toes and getting a little bit of experience in all of them, and that can kind of help clear things up, so.
Yeah. Um, you said there's like you got infatuated with Praxis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is it possible to, I don't know, pinpoint exactly what it is about Praxis that drew you in so much? Because I feel like for a lot of people who decide to either drop out or try to do their own thing, there's usually some piece of media or some program or something that really helps them make some sort of mindset shift.
Yeah. I think that was it. Like, Praxis is rebellious. It's it's kind of crazy. When you first hear it, it's too good to be true, but, like, they're damn proud of what they're doing, and they're not stopping. Like, it was infectious. Like, I had grew up my whole life thinking there's only one way to success. My both of my current parents have master's degrees. It was kind of drilled into me that I'm going to college. Like, I'm a great student, a straight A student. Why wouldn't you go to college? You're gonna do great. And when I told them, like, there was some backlash there. But I found Praxis, and it was such a radical idea to me. And I think it is for most people. Um, but it really hit me hard because it helped me connect a lot of the subconscious emotions that I felt for the past few years. Like, I didn't know how to put it into words. I knew college wasn't right for me, but I didn't know exactly how to really say it and put that across in my mind and to other people. But when I heard Isaac Morehouse speak about Praxis, like, it changed everything. Really, like, it helped take all my thoughts and emotions and put them into a tangible plan for moving forward in my career and in my life. Um, and that was a powerful moment for me because now, like, I don't know where I'd be if I didn't find Praxis. I'm 19, a year out of college. I've worked at 2 startup companies, moved 13 or 100 miles away from my hometown to the west side, grew up in Florida. And I've learned so much through that experience, and I've gained a ton of social capital, making tons of connections. Um, and I kind of saw all the potential there when I first heard about Praxis. And now I'm happy it's coming to fruition, but it was that potential and that mind shift that really just made me become obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm.
And and because of all that has come to fruition, because it's not too good to be true and it actually happened, I'm like, dude, there are too many people out there that don't know about this. There are too many people that are
Yeah.
thinking on this linear track and they have to go to college. And so many people don't want to, but they don't know what else to do. I talk to hundreds of people every week and they're lost. And they're like, thank God I found this program because it just speaks to them. And if it speaks to you, it speaks to you loudly. And so I just want to help as many people as possible have that light bulb moment that I did, when I first heard about it. So
Yeah. When you say it helped you, when you heard Isaac speak, it helped you kind of solidify those subconscious emotions. What?
yeah.
So what were those things specifically? I'd really like to hear more about those, because when you say you want to reach those people who are feeling lost, I think maybe they'll be able to resonate with some of that.
Yeah. So the biggest thing was, like you said, like lost, in the dark, very frustrated with like, I have one life. You have one life. There's no second chances. There's no redos. I have one life to make it count. When I'm on my deathbed, what I don't want regrets. What do I need to do to make sure I don't have any regrets? And that's like the number one thing when people die, like their number one regret is wishing that they would have lived a life according to them and not of others, not doing something that other people's
Oh,
with me.
sorry, we cut out again for a second.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, cool. So basically, I just had this revelation where
Mhm.
it's like where do I want to be at the end of my life, what I want to have accomplished, and it really boiled down to wanting to build something bigger than myself. And that was the emotion I was feeling. I was feeling like I want to do something impactful on this world, but it's so blurry. I have no idea how that's going to happen. And like I could be a doctor or a teacher but there's a lot of ways you can go about it by building something bigger than yourself. But like to put into words what I was feeling, it was this emotion of wanting to be a part of something, to create something for the world. But at the same time being very lost and afraid and anxious and scared of not knowing what that's going to look like. And there's like I'm sitting at the bottom of a mountain, this huge mountain to climb, but the thing is it's foggy and I don't know where I'm going. So it was that feeling. And I think a profound way to say it is this, like, if someone asks you, like, I'll ask you now, what is the purpose of life?
Right.
What is it? What's the purpose of
What's the
life?
purpose of life?
To you. Yeah, what's the purpose of life to you?
That's a tough question.
Like outside of maybe anyone that's listening, like religion, like those are motivating factors for a lot of people. But outside of those type of things, like what's the purpose of your life?
Yeah, I guess I could give an answer. Well, it's something I definitely figured out more recently, but it's like I've always had a love for learning, but specifically in a way that's connected with helping people make an impact in the world doing what they love so that, they're happy doing that as well. But then also, it's like it's connected to being able to explore the world and find all those
Yeah.
options. But I mean, philosophically, I honestly think there's not a good answer to that question.
Well, so I'm gonna give you the perfect answer, at least to
Okay, go
me,
ahead.
and it kind of aligns with what you're saying, but in a more specific way.
Mm,
And I think the purpose of life is to give life purpose.
yeah.
So whatever that looks like to you, figure that out. It's just and what that turned into me was building something bigger than myself, whether that really and ultimately is turning into a business idea and helping people start other businesses. I love the startup culture in space. And I want to help people grow companies faster without having to take VC money, and that's a whole other topic. And I'm trying to start my own thing eventually. But it turned into that. Like I want to give people purpose and I want to give people the ability to go and create and make the world a better place. As cliche as that sounds. But
Hmm.
yeah, like at the end of the day, I think that's what it boils down to. And you have to figure out what is that purpose you want to create in the world.
Yes, yes.
So
Right. Because,
yeah, like does that answer your question of like what I was feeling?
yeah, that answered it very well. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot in there, I think. A lot of people can relate to, especially that frustration. Because I can personally I can remember it very clearly too. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, about creating your own purpose. There's so many external forces and people telling you what your purpose should be, right? But
Right.
then,
But at the end of the day, you're the one sacrificing and you're the one that's got to deal with your decisions. Like they're not carrying any weight when they say something. And it's a lot easier for someone to say an opinion, um, but it's a lot harder for them to actually do it and like kind of contribute to that.
mhm,
So um, that's a whole other topic. But that's also why I don't
yeah.
really. I think there's flaws in the voting.
Oh,
People's what they say is different than what they do most of the time. For
mhm,
example, most grocery stores aren't going to send out a survey to the surrounding area asking them what they want to stock on their shelves. They're going to stock their shelves with what people buy because when people survey, they're like, "Oh, I want to eat healthier, so I'm going to force the store to only put healthy things on the shelves." But they want Twinkies, you know? Like they're going to go buy Twinkies somewhere, so they're going to stop shopping at that store. They're going to put things on the shelf that people want. People's stated preferences and revealed actions are very different this majority of the time, and that comes in the form of also friends and family that have the best intentions, but they don't have any skin in the game. It's all on you.
yeah.
So
Was there a moment, maybe doesn't have to be during Praxis, during when you're in Praxis, but was there a moment where you had, I don't know, some sort of thought process or pattern or some sort of idea, and then you kind of came to an epiphany almost? You were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm thinking this way," but actually the reality is different. It's kind of vague. I'm if that
yeah, I'm trying to pull it together.
um maybe I'll try to be more specific.
I got it.
You got
So when I first started out, I didn't know anything about sales. And when I went to scripted and through the boot camp itself, I also learned like a lot of sales techniques and um, kind of opened my eyes to how that works. But at the end of the day, like in my mind, I was like, people care about facts or people care about attributes. Like this toothbrush has the best bristles. It has the cleanest, or like it has the like it cleans your teeth the best. It's the sturdiest. Like it's not gonna break and like whatever. But people don't care about things like that. They care about connections. Like
okay.
like you, instead of saying it has brush has the best bristles, say something along the lines of this brush will give you the biggest smile ever or the most prettiest smile ever or and it's going to help you attract more people and have more friends and things like that, like connect on an emotional level because at the end of the day like that's what people are going to be responding to. And sales is about connections and problem solving and helping people. Like you have a problem, I have a solution, but you're only going to connect if we connect. Like if you're not going to connect the dots unless we connect. And so I think the biggest struggle I had time and time again was listing off reasons why you should buy our product, not going the more philosophical route and just trying to establish a connection with those people. So and that transcends my day-to-day job. Like everyone listening, anyone that ever watches this is selling something. They're selling themselves to their friends. They're selling themselves to the hiring managers and stuff like that, or selling themselves in like a job, like a application to a school. Whatever it is, you're selling yourself. If you want something, like even when you're young, like you want to go to the store and you want your mom to buy you a pack of candy, you have to sell that. You're selling to your mom like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a good person. I'm not gonna break anything for the next month. Like, I'm gonna do everything you say. I'm gonna do all the chores." You're selling to your parents so they will go and do something for you. And so take this advice of like, make sure that your ultimate goal to establish connections with other people. And how you can do that And the best way is through value creation. So create value for other people to establish a connection. Do something good for them without them asking you to. And then one day you can come back to them like, hey, you remember that time? Remember that time I did this for you? Hey, do you mind, repaying the favor? And it's not trying to use somebody. Like you genuinely want to help them, but that creates a bank of social capital that you can then use later on whenever you need help. Like Isaac Morehouse, the founder of Praxis, when he started the company, he didn't have a lot of money. He didn't have a whole lot of access to talent necessarily, or didn't think he did. But over the past 10 years of his professional career, he did so many cool and just went out of his way and did great things for other people and up a lot of social capital in the bank. And he cashed that out and they helped him grow and start his company.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably the biggest shift I've learned. Like, it's not about features. It's not about, your qualities. Like when you're going to date somebody, you're selling yourself. Like you don't say, "Hi, my name is Gregory, and I blah 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 blah. Like I'm this tall. I like this type of food." And you talk all about yourself the whole time. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to establish a connection with them, and you're trying to learn more about them. And maybe you're going to give them your sweater or something like that, or pay for their dinner. Like you're creating value for them, so you can establish a stronger connection. So it transcends what I'm saying, but like in the professional context as well, don't just list features. It's all about the connections that you make in your life. So
Yeah, I think that's so important. And several other guests who have come on have really stressed that point of connection, the point of having connections. But
yeah,
like specifically, what are some things you recommend for people who know they have to give, right? But maybe they're not so sure how to do that, or they haven't been taught how to provide value for other people. Are there any things they could start with?
yeah. This is very basic.
That's fine.
If you can't do anything else, say thank you to people. What I mean by this is, even in the professional context, no one, and I learned this from Isaac, but no one writes thank you notes anymore. Like handwritten, genuine thank you notes for anything. Or like, hey, it was great to see you the other day. Happy we grabbed coffee with each other. It was nice to catch up. Look forward to do it again in the future. Something like that, but handwritten, mail it to them, or drop it off at their office or wherever, at school, in their locker, like wherever you're at in your life. Be kind to people. Thank you notes will take you so far. Like if you're in a job interview, I highly doubt 0.001% of people are going to be writing a handwritten thank you note to somebody, even if they didn't get the job.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to remember that because no one does it anymore. You're creating emotional value for that person and creating social capital value by just writing a thank you note. People love attention. Attention is the most valuable thing you can get. And that's why there's ads everywhere and companies are competing for attention on Instagram and Snapchat and things like that. Like that is a huge market. And and to know that you're giving attention, you gave 5 to 10 minutes out of their day when they were busy, weren't even thinking about you. That's powerful. And they're going to remember that. That's going to stand out. So even if you don't have skills or you don't know what to do, just say thank you. Like it's very basic, but it'll really go a long way. It might shock you. So
That's a nice one. Yeah.
yeah.
I guess we should close it off soon since I know you've only got an hour, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go pretty soon.
Yeah. So let's see. I think I'm really curious to know what you have planned right now and for the future. You talked about it a little bit, but I don't know. Do you have anything in mind?
So right now, I'm really still focused on just growing my skills and understanding how to grow a business, not being the founder, not being the CEO. I work closely with very talented people. Mitchell Earl has raised millions and millions of dollars on his own accord in venture capital for companies. Like he knows what he's doing, and I'm just appreciating the opportunity to work with high level people like him and the entire team really. And now I'm kind of, like I said, I'm transitioning into a product. So I've been in sales for about a year. I'm going to start switching to product and really understanding how to make that like that's what I'm selling all day. Let me make that better too. And I'm just trying to work my way around that entire process right now. I don't know. I probably go another year just in the grind, trying to help grow that company. And it could be longer. But there is some side projects that I'm trying to start.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually on my nights and on my weekends, start building something else that's my passion more so, or that's my baby, and I can grow that over time, and maybe eventually like it gets big enough to where I can quit my job at Praxis, wherever I'm at that time, and take on that full time. And so my main goal right now is to help startup companies start and launch their companies bootstrapped. A lot of times you have to give equity away in your company if you want funding from a VC or something along those lines. So or take out a loan and then you have to pay it back. Like it takes a lot to start a company, and so I'm trying to help people not do that, because once you do that, there's other people controlling your product, and you can't make it the way you want to, and it takes away a lot of power and profit and stuff like that from you. So um, I'm creating a platform. It's somewhat tech, but somewhat physical of a platform. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's essentially helping people, or it would be my company pairing with other businesses that are startup companies, mostly physical products. It also could be SaaS products or software as a service products that are just starting out and have MVPs or minimum viable products that aren't on the market yet, and they will partner with our company and will products to our customers. And so these would just be like subscribers. And think of it in terms of like a subscription box, for instance. They would create, when they created their account on our page, they would take a quiz and say like, I like these type of tech gadgets, I like this type of software, like this is what I do for a living, this is what I'm interested in. And then we'll create a box of from our partners that we work with that are creating minimum viable products, and we'll send that to them every month, and then they can rate the products, give feedback to the companies that created them, help them grow faster, and in the purchase of that minimum viable product, they're helping fund the company and keep growing and making their product better. And so it's similar to like GoFundMe or Alibaba. Oh, not it's not. What is it called? Forgot the other one. But it's
Kickstarter.
like Kickstart. But there's one more, and
There's
it's more
another one.
focused on like tech. Indiegogo,
Uh,
and it's different than like a crowdfunding platform, but very similar. But crowdfunding platforms, you're giving all this money to them in the hopes that you'll get that product one day, and it's going to take some time. But and then on the other side of things, they don't get any of the and the companies don't get any of that funding unless they reach their crowdfunding goal. Otherwise, it just goes back to all recipients
mhm,
or people that give it away. Um, this is allowing companies to not only get money permanently right away when they're buying, because we're buying products from them, or I don't know how exactly that would work, but people are buying the products from us and getting it into the hands of the people in the market that the company would really be targeting early adopters. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to pay a higher price tag for a crappier product to help see innovation come to life, and that's really who we would be targeting, and helping. So we'd be connecting, companies to the early adopters that they're struggling so hard to find, because when you're small, you don't have a lot of presence online. People aren't going to find you, and so we would be that presence that should bridge that gap. And then at the same time, people that are funding these companies are getting a physical product very quickly.
mm.
Um, and so they can actually enjoy and see the growth of that instead of waiting for like the final product to come out.
Yeah,
So
sounds really helpful for people, for smaller companies and
yeah,
starters,
for people that
especially.
are just starting out,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that are just trying to get their hands into the consumers, because then they get feedback. And kind of the idea is that if you love the product, you share it on social, tag us and that company in it, then you get a certain amount of money off your next box. And
Mm-hmm.
so it promotes the sharing and growth of that company on its online digital presence. So
I see. Sounds pretty exciting. Yeah, good luck to you on that.
yeah,
Like to.
it's probably going to change a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
all I know is that I want to be in this space of helping people start businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that's a pain point of having to give equity away from businesses. Like
Mm-hmm.
how can we help people stay bootstrapped and grow how they want to? So
I see. Yeah.
yeah.
What if people want to keep updated on that? Is there somewhere they can find you? I know you have a blog, but
Yeah, so I mean, you can go to my website, thegregorywilliamson.com. There's nothing specific on that project there yet, but probably will be very soon.
mm-hmm.
Um, and when that website's live, I'll have a link to that in my on my website. That's the best place to find me. Um, and then I mean, I have an Instagram. It's underscore Gregory W. Um, but yeah, if you're really for personal context, you do that, and I also have a LinkedIn. So
Okay. Um, and oh, finally, I have a question, which is, what does walk your path mean to you?
yeah, walk your path means to very similarly to what we were talking about earlier, to own your decisions, take risk, and live life where you're creating your own purpose, not letting other people and like when you let too many like it's okay to have advice. It's okay to get other people's perspective. But at the end of the day, you need to understand that it's your choice and you're going to be living with the consequences of your decisions. And so to walk your path means to be humble, but be brave in your actions, own them, experiment, test the waters and push yourself. And don't be scared to, do things that you deep down you know you want to do because at the end of the day, the walking your path means not having any regrets when you're on your deathbed and you look back on your life.
Okay, thank you so much, Gregory.
Yeah, absolutely. A
Yeah,
pleasure being on the call, Emma. Yeah, looking forward to seeing how this turns out. I'm excited for you, and I'm happy you started this up, and I was glad to be a part of it, man.
thank you.